All right, all right. I think we are live. I want to double check and see, if I can see myself on Facebook.
I know I'm
'Cause,
looking right now.
right? Sometimes the technology be playing around with you.
I
Yes.
love it.
Okay. Yes, yes, yes. I can see us. Let me just make sure. Can I hear us? Yes. All right. Yes, we are good. We are good. So we are here. This is the second summer pop-up series episode of the coaches are in. And today I have with me Coach Joyce Dungee, Proctor of Seminars by Joyce and a Captivating Career. So we're going to spend some time with her this evening, learning a little bit more about her and her expertise and background and how she even came to be doing this kind of work. But then we're going to actually, dive into some tips and strategies and things like that around, career development and advancement and personal branding. So we do always want to make sure you get some coaching whenever we come
Got to
together.
get a little bit of it.
We add that in for you all. I'm going to ask that you share the link for this live so other people can join us. That you like, love, stars, whatever the options are that you're getting wherever you're watching from. That you do that as well. So Joyce, I didn't say who I was, right? Just because they might not know me, right?
Yeah,
So
you gotta introduce yourself every time.
yes. So I'm Dr. Cherita Weatherspoon. I am the, I guess, creative mind behind the coaches are in my business, Powerhouse Coaching. I am a business strategist and alignment coach. So Coach Joyce, go ahead and share with the people a little bit about who you are and what you do.
All right. So as you said, I'm Joyce Dungee Proctor, Seminars by Joyce and a Captivating Careers. I'm a career strategist and speaker
Mhm.
slash consultant. Got to get that in there slash consultant.
Yes.
But I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be here. And hi, everybody. Hi, everyone. So, anyway, I was thinking about maybe sharing just a little bit about my background
Mhm.
and
Absolutely.
how I got here.
Mhm.
And so I'm just going to go back just a few years. And it started because I've always worked in service in terms of recruitment and staffing and recruitment. So it started with staffing and recruitment. And even shifting, going back a little bit further than that, I was in leadership for a particular organization for a period of time. And so I was always hiring someone. So it kind of started there. That would have been the beginning. Then I went from leadership to leadership at another company where it was the staffing and recruiting. And so, for as long as I can remember, there has been some component of hiring, recruiting, and making the ultimate match.
Mhm.
So that's kind of where it started. And then, as time would have, I would probably say in my early 30s, I'm going to go back to my early 30s. I was blessed to have an amazing encounter with an owner of a company who kind of took me under his wing and showed me the ropes, recognized that I had a few superpowers, and that's why you hear me talk about it all the time.
Mhm.
He kind of helped me to define and point out some of those superpowers. And once I began to understand what I was working with and the impact that I was able to have on the company and the people, that I worked with, I kind of took it and ran with it and really never looked back. And I got so excited and passionate about the fact that I was able to identify very clear what it was that I brought to the table, that I wanted other people to be able to partake in what it was that they could bring to the table. And that's kind of where the shift started. I mean, honestly, that's really where it started. So going from one career profession, shifting to another, working with a owner, the first owner, he kind of pointed it out to me. But in addition to that, we incorporated like coaching and interviewing techniques and like the total package. And here I am, like literally, here I am. So I'm gonna kind of pause for a second and ask a couple questions and gain clarity because you the coach.
All right. So how long have you been doing this in the context of like your own business?
So I've been doing like my own business for over 20 years. So I'm going to say 20 years that
Mhm.
I've been doing my own business. Now, and I shifted and launched a particular entity, less than 20 years ago, but 20
Mhm.
years, it's been about 20 years. I've been coaching, I've been doing career coaching for like a long, long time. A long
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
I've even
So
helped. Go ahead. Mhm.
as the I don't know if they youngins or maybe it's just my age group that does it, but like so like you're not new to this, you true to this, right?
Very, very, very true to it. Very true to it. I have been given the name when I worked in corporate. I was given the name of given this little name called the career transformation coach.
Hmm.
So not only did I do it internally and professionally at the companies that I work for, but then I also rolled it into what I was doing on my own. And I think it's kind of interesting. So for people who are trying to identify, what it is that they desire to do or trying to gain clarity around it, a lot of times you're taking what you're already doing and kind of shifting, and that's kind of where you start. You might not stay there, right?
Right.
But it's a good starting point because you have the years of experience. You've kind of found a niche and something that you're passionate about and that you're excited about.
Mhm.
And I was
Mhm.
always very excited about helping people to realize their true gifts and talents and what it was or what it is that they bring to the table. And I was excited about that because it was something that I was able to do through someone else because I couldn't do it by myself,
Right.
partnering with someone else to help me to do it. And then when I realized the impact that it had, I was on a mission to tell like everybody and try to show
Mhm.
everybody how to do it.
Right. Good, good. That's awesome. There's something you mentioned in introducing yourself where you talked about helping companies to make the ultimate match. And I really like that wording. Because one, it's not, even though you were working on behalf of the company, the idea of finding the perfect match is not one-sided, right? Because a match is like it works for both. Right? It's not just, well, it works for me but it may not work for you. So it is um this, yes, we want the right person for this role, but we also want the role to be the right fit for that person as well. And unless you're intentional about it, it doesn't always work out that way.
See,
Right.
you know what? But that's why I love you
Mhm.
because you're going to take that deeper dive and we're going to pull this thing out.
Mhm.
And in the past, there was a season when the interview was perceived as being like a one-way relationship.
Mhm.
It was all about the prospective employer. But the interview is ultimately about both because it should be a win-win for
Right.
both parties, the prospective employer and the candidate. And a
Mhm.
lot of times the candidate doesn't feel sometimes for whatever reason that they're worthy or that they may be in a position where they've been unemployed for a period of time, so they feel like they have to get the job, so it can become one-sided. But
Right.
the one thing about understanding the value that you bring, your personal brand,
Mhm.
okay, you're able to articulate what it is that you bring because you start with the blueprint, which is the job description. The
Mhm.
job description, okay, is exactly that, the job description. The interview, rather be face to face or a phone screen, is your opportunity to sell you the value of what you can bring to the organization and then understand what they can bring to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so what does that mean? What does that mean? So prior to going to an interview, you're doing the research on the company. But even before you get to that, what are your non-negotiables? And when I say non-negotiables, what's the top 2 or 3 things that are important to you? Is it health insurance? Is it flexibility? You know, is it salary? Depending on the season in your life, it's different for individuals. But you need to know what's important to you so that when you're at the table, you're able to articulate that. And then if there comes to a point where you have to negotiate, you know what you need to negotiate, the total compensation package, not
Right.
just a piece of it. I don't want to get too ahead of myself because I'm very passionate about this. But just to back it up, the perfect match is a two-way street, the
Mm-hmm.
prospective employer and the prospective hire.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. So there's two things I want to kind of expound on that you said from my personal experience. Um, I remember interviewing for a job a number of years ago, and I worked in higher education. That is like where my career was over 20 years, and I was at this particular university, and they had asked, I can't remember how they worded it, but essentially it was kind of like, what are your non-negotiables in an organization? And one of the thing at the top of my list was that I did not want to work for an organization that would want me to do like anything unethical or illegal, right? And she just couldn't understand why I would even answer something like that. And I'm like, because I've worked at organizations that expect me to do unethical things or, or illegal things. And I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm not negotiating around it.
Well, you know
And
what?
it's
I think it's beautiful. I think it's beautiful because we are all a project of a product of our past and our
mhm,
experiences.
mhm,
So the reason why she probably didn't understand it is because she doesn't have the same background and experiences that you have,
mhm,
right? So
right.
even during the interview process, it's opening our mind and giving grace
Mhm,
because everybody has different experiences.
right. Right. Yeah. So that was really like I had to try to explain to her why I was saying it without like literally saying, well, I worked at this institution and this is
Mhm.
this is what happened,
Yeah,
but
because
just
we don't want you to say that.
yeah,
We don't ever
yeah,
want you to give all
right,
of that
right.
away.
It was
And,
like
and it's
I
not necessary.
exactly. So it was just, I think she threw me off in her just like being stumped by it. But it was like essentially, I'm not willing to compromise my integrity for a job.
Yes.
That's really what it boiled down to. And then the other thing was, when you're at the interview and being able to kind of sell the value of what you bring to the table, it brought to mind for me, the typical first question in the interview or like, tell us about yourself. I've interviewed a whole lot of people across my years of administration.
Love that answer.
And without, I mean, overwhelming majority of people will not answer it in a way where they communicate the value of what they bring to the table. It is, well, I grew up here and this is what I did in my education. And, sometimes they even add in there that, they're a parent, like some personal stuff that
No, no,
you don't
no.
need to add that stuff in. But I can't even really name a time where someone literally gave me an answer that kind of put me on my toes that like I need to pay attention to what this person has to say. So like what is your response to that? Or like what do you think about that given the work that
Well,
you do?
first of all, send them all to me. Send them all to me. So the answer to tell me a little bit about yourself, better known as the positioning statement in your
Mhm,
30-second commercial per se, you're looking at pretty much like a title, a job, just a job title, years of experience, area of expertise in which you're seeking or exploring. So,
mhm,
something kind of quick and off the top of my head could be, well, let's see, I'm a leadership professional with more than 25 years of experience. My area of expertise has primarily focused on recruitment and training And I'm now exploring an opportunity with a company such as yours where I can utilize my transferable skills and add value to the overall organization. I mean, just kind of giving more of something that's more succinct, which gave you, my most recent title, my years of experience, my area of focus or expertise, and then what I'm seeking and exploring. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, I'm not going to say it that fast, but just kind of giving you something versus, well, tell me a little bit about yourself. Well, I have two children. I love my grandchildren. My recent vacation was to Italy. Like nobody cares. Um,
Mm-hmm.
when you get the job, you can have that conversation. But
Right.
in the meantime, you are trying to sell the value, and you
Mm-hmm.
want to think about it. You want to take more of a consultative approach during the interview. So even when you're having that opening statement, that positioning statement, where you're giving them, kind of like just an overview of a little bit of about your billboard, because you're not going to give it all out right away. You're going to pause in between. You're going to look to read body language if you're in person. And then you're going to kind of pause and see what the next question is. And generally, right after, tell me a little bit about yourself. You might get into, well, what are your strengths?
Mm-hmm.
And so you're going to know those things, because preparation is the key. You want to
Right.
prepare for an interview. I don't care how long we've been working, what titles we carry. Preparation is key to anything.
Right.
So, and preparation means doing the research on the company. That has not changed.
Mm-hmm.
Reviewing the job description, being prepared to overcome any objections that might come up as a result of experience that you might not have that's within the job description, not being shocked when you have the conversation or the interview and they say, well, I see that you don't have, I don't know, a PhD. I'm just using that as an
Mm-hmm.
example. You don't have a PhD. And you're able to come back with, yes, but I do have this. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're not prepared and if you have not done your homework, then you can't even do that.
Right.
At that point, you bomb that question. And then what happens? Your self confidence decreases,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because we have to always remember the best person for the job doesn't always get the job.
That's
It's the
true.
person who can interview and sell themselves. Sometimes they get the job. You may be the better person, but if you're not able to articulate the value that you can bring.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. So what I like is this what do you call it? This synergy when we're getting into the conversation around personal branding, right? And you talked about this positioning statement. Now, as a business coach, we talk about positioning statements as well. And a lot of times, people get the idea of branding around businesses and companies, but they don't necessarily understand or get this concept of you need to brand yourself as well, even if you are only career focused and have no interest in starting a business or anything like that. There still is this process of branding and like maintaining your brand that you should be going through for your career if you
Hmm.
have any aspirations of moving up or moving like in the same company or moving over to another company at a higher level or whatever. So I love seeing the similarities between the two. So when we talk about personal branding, what are some of like the key things that you feel are necessary, but that the average person is probably like not doing or paying attention to simply because this is not typically something that's being taught in a college classroom?
So, I feel like I need to put me in a booster seat and strap me in,
Hmm.
because I got so much to say. So let me start with this. Let me let me start with this, because this is my passion. This is my superpower. Okay. So your brand as an individual. Okay. So you're branded as an individual, period. Your personal branding is everything about you. It's how you walk, it's how you talk, it's how you dress, it's how you're perceived. If you don't take charge of your brand, which is yourself, and create the brand that you desire,
Mm-hmm.
one will be assigned to you. So what does that mean? People already have an opinion of you.
Right.
If you poll everyone right now, everyone already has an opinion of everyone. People form an opinion immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So being conscientious and understanding that you are a personal brand and that it's everything about you, and deciding how you would like to show up, deciding that you are going to manage how you show up,
Mm-hmm.
deciding that you're going to rock your brand and take control of it helps you to position yourself, right, in a better space.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Period. So, case in point, over the years, we've all been on social media. I think I was forced on social media when I was working as a managing director for a career coaching entity. And they said, look, you've got to put yourself out there, whether you're comfortable with it or not, you've got to do it. So I've been out there since maybe 2009, okay,
Mm-hmm.
on most of the platforms. My intention when I came out was not to create a brand because I was not even thinking in those terms. But what
Mm-hmm.
I noticed after being out there for a period of time is that I would see people in person and they would be like, you're the career lady. You're the motivational lady. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
you're my friend. And I didn't even know who they were, but they knew me and they had already formed an opinion of me. Light bulb, light
Mm-hmm.
bulb.
Mm-hmm.
People are always watching. People are coming up to you or coming up to me, and I didn't even know who they were.
Right.
And I would say, well, what is your name? Because I'm just like, oh my goodness. So, and they had already formed an opinion of me. And this was before I was doing business intentionally. Understand what I'm saying, right? I
Right.
was just
Right.
there.
Mm-hmm.
So going back into my internal careers over the years, you know, people are forming an opinion of you. They're saying, oh my goodness. And I can only speak to myself. They're saying, well, Joyce, you know, people follow you. There's something about you. You influence people. We want to clone this. I wasn't even aware that I was doing it because
Right.
I'm just going to keep it real. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Some of my gifts, and a lot of them are from God because they were not even me. I wasn't even conscientious. You come on. Like sometimes the light is bright and it's not because of me.
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But God gives us wisdom. So once I was able to grab a hold of it by understanding that through my mentor, having someone else to help me to understand it, then I'm like, I need to manage this. I can impact people in a positive way. So your brand, your personal brand is everything about you. So think about life before the logos. Think
Mm-hmm.
about life before the colors. Think about life before the website. Even if if you are a business owner, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Think about you as an individual and what is it that you're passionate about? How do you want to show up? You know,
Mm-hmm.
what do you want people to say about you when you leave the room? And
Right.
to be intentional about it. And then who do you want to know about it? Who's your target audience? Girl, I told you, get me my seatbelt and strap me in. Because what I want you to know is this is that I work with career professionals, but I also work with business women in the C-suite that want to work on their personal selves, their personal brand. I'm not the website person. That's not me. I'm talking about that they want to work on getting clarity about their brand.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I work with politicians. I mean, I'm behind the scenes doing a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying.
She just saying.
I'm just saying. And you know what? And you got to get comfortable with sharing that because not people don't know, Doc. People don't.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Did I
Yes.
answer your question?
Um,
Bring me back if
I
I
don't think
didn't.
you answered the question I asked, but you gave some good information. So, so we are right on that.
Well, you should, because I
Um,
think you said, I want to make sure that I get it. You were talking about branding. So what is branding if you're not in a business? Okay. So when somebody works with me, not only do they have their positioning statement, but they also have their brand statement.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and they're a little bit different,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Because, and you know why? Because their target audience may be different.
Mm-hmm.
So, you may have a positioning statement for an interview, your elevator speech, but then we're going to put together a brand statement if you're a woman in leadership, or you're pursuing, or a person pursuing leadership, so that when you're out and you're speaking and you're representing yourself within your company or your organization, or you're working to climb that ladder, okay, or position yourself for the C-suite, then we got to get you ready. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's a different statement.
Right. Yes. Yes. Um, so you shared a lot about like what a personal brand is, and I think the one thing I want to attach to what you just said is um, this idea that part of your personal brand is also kind of how you make people feel when you do show up, right? So, because we can think, okay, well, I'm saying this is my personal brand and I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and all of that. But then there's also the reality of your personal brand in terms of what people experience when they do engage and interact with you. And if those things don't match up, there's some work that we need to do. Granted, in some cases, it's not always on you as the brand. And I speak because you know how I feel about my sisters. I'll speak from that. We can be viewed as being argumentative, even though all we're doing is sharing an alternative opinion, and there doesn't have to be any attitude or anything behind it. Just the fact that you had the nerve to kind of speak up, then you're perceived this way. Um, Speaking from my personal experience, I was always hearing that, like, especially from people who reported to me, it was like initially like, oh, like I was so intimidated by you. But now that I got to know you, and I'm like, well, what did I do to intimidate you? No one could ever tell me what I did to intimidate them. They were just intimidated. And it's like, was that about me? Or is that about you? If you can't give me solid evidence, like you can't say you did this, you said this, you treated me that way. It was just like I saw your face and I was intimidated. So there are some times when you're kind of getting branded by other people, and it's appropriate, right? Like actually what they're experiencing is true.
Mhm.
And then there are times when there is some other things at play that are
Right.
influencing how they are perceiving you. But even in getting that feedback a number of times, I then had to think about, like, what is it that I can do to address this? Like, do I need to be, because I'm a high introvert, do I need to be more social? Do I need to be more outgoing in terms of reaching out and building relationship than I typically would be, which was drawing me out of my comfort zone. So then I got into this thing where, like, when I started a new job, I'm going to meet everybody. I'm going to sit down with you. I'm going to learn about what your role is and how do our roles connect and how can we support each other. Then I started doing that. Then I had a manager tell me, was like, Black woman, I don't understand why you're doing it. It's so strange. Like, from like a negative kind of thing, not like I'm impressed or anything like that. And I'm just like, okay, so then you see this as a bad thing, like being outgoing and trying to get to know my coworkers is now strange. Just all of that, but through getting those different messages, obviously there was learning in that and growing and recognizing that every situation or organization that I'm in is going to be a different culture, different personalities, and things that you have to learn to navigate. So I'm not going to say just like accommodate them or just acclimate to what
No,
they
it's not. It's
expect to
navigating.
do.
Mhm.
Yeah, but navigating them, and being able to really discern when it's you and when it's not you, and
Yeah, and
then
that's very important.
what action to take based on what the case is, because we don't want to let those other people's opinions about who we are and how we're showing up cause us to shrink back either.
Which there's a thin line.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Mm-hmm.
definitely a thin line, but I want to make sure because you were saying so many things that I wanted to dive in on, but I was practicing my good listening skills, which means I was sitting on my hands so that I wouldn't talk, right? So because, you were saying a couple of things. So number one, when you said that they were intimidated by you. Now, a person in power or in a key position or key role, a lot of times that will come with the territory.
Mm-hmm.
I would always get, believe it or not, I would get, you're too nice. So
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter. So because
Right.
people are gonna have an opinion. So they would say that, I would always get, well, you're too nice. People are gonna run over you. So
Mm-hmm.
let me explain this, or let me state this. In my earlier career, I would be like, oh, really? And I would be adjusting. Now, this is coming from higher ups
Right.
because I'm still learning, and I'm learning my whole life. Don't get me wrong, I'm learning my whole life, but I have something about know thyself first and better than anyone else, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to put that over to the left for a second. Then I'm going to come back to like this 360, where, when you're in leadership in companies, they you reach out to different people and you get feedback. And we got to be open to feedback. So you're getting feedback, and, we're all a work in progress.
Right.
But I'm going to come back to the left. But when you know thyself first and better than anyone else, there is a point in time when you get to a season in your life. And for me, the season is now.
When?
And I know you like this little sassy. Okay. Like, people need to kind of, I'm going to be nice. I'm not going to apologize for being nice. That's my leadership style.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you may not understand my leadership style, but now that I've been doing my thing for like 3 decades or more, I know what works for me
Right.
as a leader, and I consider myself an expert in certain things.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
have a track record and proof. I'm going to be nice because that's who I am.
Right.
Okay. So I'm not compromising that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now, there were periods in my career where I would walk in the room and with a heel on, I'm about 6 foot. And I'm coming in and I'm walking, the facility or the floor or whatever. And I would get the feedback that I was intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
Even though in my mind I'm thinking, but I'm so nice, I'm so approachable. But depending on where the person is in their career, depending on the experiences that they had, that could be true for them. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to miss that. I'm going to listen to it. I will have a conversation with it, right? But you also have to understand that sometimes people can use those things. So
Mm-hmm.
you just have to be able to be in tune with yourself enough to know that as a leader, as a professional, I will be open to, constructive feedback because we're a work in progress.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to also understand certain things about yourself that you know that you know that you know.
Right. In
And
other words, so you got to know when just let that thing go.
yeah, you have to let it go because everything is not, when you're called to a particular calling,
Mm-hmm.
where you're in charge of a company, you're in charge of a department, you're in charge of a group of people, it's lonely at the top.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not there to make, friends and fans all the time. You've got to make tough decisions. And so your decisions are not going to always be favorable. And even though, I can say that I'm one of a nice leader, I'm a nice leader, but I still make those tough decisions.
Right. Right.
But it's not what you say, it's how you say it. I respect the people that I encounter. I respect the people that I work with. And when, I come from an era where they say, follow this, where they say, treat people how you want to be treated. Treat them how they want to be treated.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Right.
like treat people how you want to be treated. Ah, treat them how they want to be treated.
Right.
Short story. When I was working in human resources, staffing and recruiting, I was trying to think of an incentive program, like to give, want to give. So I decided that I was going to give this particular gift to everybody. I was going to do this particular giveaway to everybody. And then something told me to like send out like a questionnaire and find out what they want.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I was like, I was way off. I was way off because I was giving them what I wanted. I was giving them, at that time, I think I was giving like a spa treatment or whatever. People wanted comp time.
Right. Give me some time off of work.
I was giving a gift card. But guess what? I heard them loud and clear. I
Mm-hmm.
listened to them. I heard them loud and clear. And once I did it, I told them, they're like, oh, what are you going to do with this? You got this information. So now what you going to do with it? I said, stay tuned. And
Mm-hmm.
I created something so that I could do something for them because people want to be heard. Right. So anyway, coming back to the brand, once you're solid about your brand and your personal brand in terms of who you are, what your strengths are, what areas you want to work on, what your superpowers are, your target audience who needs to know about you, where you want to go in terms of your vision and your goal, you
Mm-hmm.
put together your plan to do exactly that.
Mm-hmm.
And also, add a little bit of grace and forgiveness and self-love and self-care along the way. Because what I'm here to tell you is that no matter how nice you are, no matter how much you give, no matter how much you work, there's always going to be someone or someones who don't feel all warm and fuzzy about you. And so
Right.
that's why you can't always be trying to satisfy man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've had times in my earlier career where people were blown away about the fact that I even got the position. They were trying to understand it. But what's for you, I'm here to tell you this because I've been around long enough to know that what's for you is for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yes.
okay, and you don't have to explain it.
Right. Got it. Got
I'm
it.
just saying.
So I do see a question. So Nish is asking, shouldn't some of your personal details be part of your brand as well?
So when you say your personal details, when you say what do you your personal details like? So like, what do you mean? Like for me, it would be like my red lipstick, my hobbies, what I like to do in my spare time. My the color black, and I'm using that for an example. Personal details. Your style. Um, you're not sharing too much personal information at work, but you are human, and as once you're there and you're building relationships, people care and they want to connect with you,
Mhm,
and they want to know about your family. They do, so if
mhm,
you have grandchildren or if you have children, absolutely. And I'm not sure if that's what she's talking about, but absolutely, because it makes you human,
mhm,
right? And when you're connecting and you're building relationships and you are forming those relationships, it's not going to just be about work. And how people kind of gravitate towards one another out in addition to work, right?
mhm,
Is because they have things in common,
mhm,
and I'm just going to say, so if somebody likes to knit, or somebody is a movie buff, or somebody
mhm,
likes to shop, or someone is a foodie, sometimes you connect with people at work because of that.
mhm,
So, I mean, so that's okay, and it is a part of your brand, because I can tell you, I can name every single person that I work with. I can tell you something about them, and I give them I actually have different names for them based on their superpowers and the little things that are about them that are wonderful.
right.
I
Uh,
really do.
yeah. So I think so. She did clarify details about your personal life and journey. But before you answer, what I'll say is that like when you're giving kind of your brand statement,
Mm,
right? It's part of it is going to be dependent upon like the context and or the environment that you're in. So what you're going to say
absolutely.
when someone asks you in an interview about tell us about yourself, that is not going to be the same thing that you say at a social
You paused a little bit.
event somewhere else, right?
Okay. You pause it paused a little bit.
Oh, okay. I said the thing that you say in response to the question of tell me a little bit about yourself at an interview may not be the same thing you're going to say at a social event.
No,
Um,
not for me and my
Right,
clients.
right. The reality is that your personal brand, the whole concept of that, like that is really formed through your personal life and your journey and your experience, as well as decisions you make in terms of what your values are and things like
It's
that,
all of it.
like all of that. But
Hmm.
when you're communicating what your brand is to someone, it may not many cases it may not be appropriate to share those things in that
No,
statement, right?
no.
But if you are on stage
Yes,
speaking and you're doing some sort of motivational, transformational, inspirational talk, you certainly may be weaving those things into your brand story as you're
right.
sharing it on the stage, but that is very different from the interview setting.
For
Yeah.
me, yes,
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
very different. It's very different because again, your positioning statement during the interview is summarizing what you've done up until this very moment. Again, your title, kind of like what you've done, your work.
Mhm.
It's over here, and then your brand statement, that can be depending on what your goal is at currently is at work, your position, who your target audience. So it's a one-on-one kind of let's peel the onion back. And then also the statement for the entrepreneur. That's another statement, so it's there's a lot of variables.
Right. And statements are different from the brand persona, I guess.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. So I'm
Because
trying to
remember,
find the right words to use.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, so right now, like, okay, so working with you, right? Before even working with you, well, I found out more after working with you. You little sassy, sassy. I call you little sassy, sassy, right? I love it. And I know that you're going to take a deep dive. I know you're going to peel the onion back. That's a part of what you're known for.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's a part of what you're known for.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know you were an introvert. I would have never known that.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't know. But I know you're gonna peel that onion back, and that's why I said, Doc, go ahead and ask some questions because I need you to peel the onion back because I'm gonna keep talking, right? That's a part
Right.
of my
Right.
brand.
Yes.
All of that's a part of it.
Yes. 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 So Nish, and I think this will be the last question we respond to from our viewers. Nish asks, "How do you handle having to rebuild your brand?"
So the first thing I call it like so, and I don't want to say if your brand was sabotaged, but I'm gonna use the words. It could be sabotage. It could be rebuilding your brand. You could absolutely rebuild your brand, and in order to do that, then you want to take a good look at and assess where your brand is now. And in order to do that, you've got to incorporate other people because you're going to need to engage other people to kind of get feedback on what the perception is of your brand. Because it's not going to just come from you because you're just one person. We need to get externally and find out what other people are seeing. So you're looking at people that you trust and you respect, and you're looking at them in different categories of your life, and you're soliciting them for information and feedback on what the perception is. So you're going to ask them maybe 5 or so questions, get that feedback, pull that feedback, look at what you see and what you get from that. Prior to you getting it from them, you're going to list yourself what your perception is. So you're going to take your perception combination with theirs and then say, okay, boom, this is where I'm at. This is ultimately where I need to work to make changes. Who
Mhm.
needs to know about these changes so that I can position myself to get in front of them to make those changes?
Mhm.
Because it's just like anything else. If nobody knows about it, you blow up by yourself. So clearly, if your brand is messy and needs a little bit of work, or you want to rebuild it just because you just want to start over and clean slate and start with another perception, you just have to identify the why of it, what the perception, how you perceive it, external, target
Mhm.
audience, and start about the business of doing some work.
Mhm. So two things. The first is when you get that feedback from other people, get it from people who are going to be honest with you,
Yep.
not
Honest and
people who are just going to
respecting
tell
us.
you what you want to hear and tell you the good stuff, but
Because you can't
somebody
fix
who
it.
is going to tell you that your attitude is janky
Yep.
and you need to work on that or you don't take feedback very well, like whatever it may be, and then don't get offended by that. Take it for what it is. Like if people are saying this, it's because that's what they experience from you, especially if you're hearing it from more than one person.
You'll
And
see
just
the
like, okay,
theme.
yeah, how do I, what do I need to do to change the perception? Because ultimately what we discussed earlier, your brand is what people experience when they engage with you. um and then the second thing, this is my last question for you. You mentioned it at the start of our conversation about having a mentor. I'd like you to speak briefly to the importance or the power in having a mentor related to your career.
My my thing is this. Okay. I value the mentor and the mentee relationship so very much. And you can get there quicker. You don't have to take the long way. There's someone out there who you respect, who maybe has done what you desire to do, or is just in a position where you're like, wow, they did it. I'd like to connect with that person and find out how. And I don't really remember me not having a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
Rather, it was a intimate one-on-one consistent relationship, or rather it was drive-by mentoring.
Mm-hmm.
I can think of like four major people that have played such a significant role in my career over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And I value the mentor mentee relationship, and I enjoy mentoring other people. So even with you partnering with a mentor, the mentor gets something out of it too. So they're not just giving to you, but they also get something out of it. And how do I know? When I met with my long term mentor in September, when they were celebrating him at a big 50th celebration, and I looked into his eyes and I said to him, "Thank you. I want to give you your flowers while you're here. Thank you for pouring into young Joyce, because I was in my 30s. Thank you so much. I will never ever forget it." And he lifted his head up and he looked at me and he said, "You were good for me too."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel about. I'm getting emotional.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And I think it gives people another view to approach mentoring. Like if you're reaching out to someone to see if you can begin that sort of relationship, that there's something you should be contributing as well. That there
Yes.
is not just this, I'm taking everything from you, but I don't have anything to offer. And it's not that you necessarily have to show up saying this is what I can do for you,
Yes.
but
Yes.
just knowing that it is a reciprocal relationship and you're not just there to soak up everything that they have to offer. Because a lot of times, and just in like in my own experience, is just like I want to be mentored. Although oftentimes given the work that I do, I don't know if you get this, where people are like, they know you're a coach, right? They
Yeah.
know that's
Yeah.
your business. They
That's
come to you
different.
and ask, can you be their mentor? Because mentoring is typically free, right? And it's like, you got to do my mentoring and my coaching programs.
But we are mentors in our coaching programs, right?
Yes.
We are, because we've
Yes.
already we've invested a lot of money in our businesses and training and development. Just
Mhm.
and we couple that with all of our transferable skills and lifelong
Yes.
experiences, and then we and that's why we have our businesses. But that's
Mhm.
separate.
Yes.
That's separate.
Yes, yes. So as we bring this conversation to a close, so we do want to give our viewers an update regarding, what you're doing and what's to come. So I let you share.
Well, a couple of things too. If they wanted to get in contact with me, they can get in contact with me to schedule a complimentary consultation at seminarsbyjoyce.com or a captivating careers .com. So you can definitely, there is a link there to sign up for a complimentary coaching session. You can also join the group of Captivating Careers with Joyce Dungee Proctor if you haven't already done so, where I show up and share more information. But as Dr. Cherita is saying, I do have something to share. And for those of you who have followed the Coaches Are In since we started, we finished the first season, which was 6 amazing episodes. And Dr. Cherita wanted me to share this evening that my last season was the first season due to some other things that have come up that were not originally planned. Mm-hmm. And so that also for me was very hard. But let me just share this. I had the opportunity to work with 3 amazing experts in their field, and I will continue to collaborate with them on an as needed basis. And that's what I wanted to share. But I want to encourage women to collaborate with other women because it was one of the most rewarding things that I have done in the last 10 years. Mm. And I have learned so much. I'm telling you. And then not to mention the love and the relationships that have been formed as a result of it.
Yes, yes. So, and of course, I was excited to have Joyce joining us on the show. Sad to see her transition out of being one of the co-hosts. As she said, she'll still be engaged in other ways, and you'll pop up here and there, so you can still engage with her that way. But I do encourage you to connect with her on her platforms, especially, if you are an employee, like that career thing is what your focus is, and you want to move up or you want to get better, improve your brand, get some strategy for how do you, progress in your career field, change careers, whatever it is that you need. She's got you. And I think it's worthwhile saying, so I think I shared this in my pop-up with Dr. Turner, just in terms of because I know I've had people ask me offline, kind of like how did y'all all connect? Right?
Oh yeah, okay.
These women. So Joyce and I attend the same church, and I that was my initial introduction to her. Like she was someone who went to my church, and I was in a role at an organization that had some programming responsibilities. And reached out to Joyce about being one of our speakers at an event that I was putting on. And that was really where the relationship started. And I guess that had to be
2006, maybe.
10 years.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. I know where I worked. It was a lifetime ago. And so just from there, we stayed in touch, have supported each other in other ways and things like that. And you never know where relationships are going to go, where they're going to take you, and how things may formulate in future years. So, it was just good for me when I knew that I wanted to do this, and I knew I wanted to have a career coach involved. Joyce was the first person that came to mind, for me. And I was very excited that she said yes. And while we will miss her on this upcoming season, we know I know a little bit more detail than she just told y'all. I know she's got some good things coming, and we wish her the best in all of those things. And and just in life happenings and business and all of that. So but we wanted to let you know, kind of formally, officially,
right,
and just make sure y'all know that she is not on the show in season 2 because of any drama. We want to make sure y'all feel on that.
Go ahead,
rolling like that. All is well with the Coaches Are
In. All love, sweet pies, yo.
Yes.
Love.
All right. So I want to thank you all for tuning in. We will be back in, I think, about 2 weeks with another pop up with Coach Allison, who is our behavioral interventionist for women, the breakthrough coach. And we'll be diving into her background and experience in the work that she does, and hopefully helping you get a breakthrough during that conversation as well. And just one last time, Joyce, let them know where they can connect with you.
Seminarsbyjoyce.com or captivatingcareers.com or a Captivating Career private group.
All right.
Look, let's Google me.
Just Google her. She's Googleable. All right. Thank you, Joyce. Thank you, ladies, and gents who tuned in for tuning in. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next time. Good night.
Bye.